Hello, lovely people. It is a beautiful day here at the meeting place of heaven and earth, and I'm so glad to be here with you. God and Goddess, thank you so much for those lovely birds that are chirping about and for all of the blessings that you continue to give us. Help us to be wise in using those blessings so that we can provide for ourselves and for others. Help us to prepare for any future that may come while planting seeds of truth and light and love so that we can help prevent humanity from moving toward the timeline that we are currently on and towards that blessed path that we read about in Enoch. Help us to manifest that blessed future and make this world into a garden paradise once more. I pray for all of the unspoken prayer requests of anybody that may be watching, for any of the people's needs. Just please provide extra love and light, comfort, whatever people need in their lives. Please help us to also be able to help in those situations, to be the hands and feet, not just having our hands in prayer, but also extending them in service. In the name of Elohim, I pray. Amen. Today on the Nasarean calendar, we have here, it is Heritage Day. Let me scoot over. Our God and Goddess, immanent and transcendent, send to all your angel of peace. May wisdom guide us as we accept or reject things from the past. May your angel of wisdom bless all that we pass on to the future. These communions are so beautiful and have really helped me in my life. I tell you all the time how much I really love this one, especially because I really am excited to be a mom someday and want to make sure that how I raise my children is the best way. So today, we're going to continue reading from the Holy Megillah, the Nasarean Bible of the Essene Way, translated by Day of Greenleaf and available at essene.org. Today's 2026 version, his final version, will be coming out in the next few months or so. So I would probably encourage you to wait for that because it is all of this great stuff and even more. So you're not going to want to miss out. Today we're continuing in what I have titled the wedding series, so to speak. And this started in chapter 43 is where, let me get to the title. The wedding of Yahshua and Miriam at Shalom in Cana. And now we're starting chapter 47 today. And so all of this stuff has still been happening essentially with the same group of people. Obviously, the Green Wizards is a smaller group. And then the initiates of Shemesh and Shemaiah joined in as well. But it's all happening in the same area. This chapter is titled The Wedding Guests of the Lord and Lady at Gan Shalom journey together to climb sacred Mount Hermon and meet Nasareans of ancient lore. Includes the Appleseed prophecy, a gift to Green Man from the Magdalene. And it's kind of cool to look into where these places are, but I also personally am skeptical of the mainstream version of these lands and territories being maybe not actually where these things actually took place, and just places being renamed different things as history is rewritten over time, so that our attention is diverted to one area and not the actual area that were these sacred sites. So anyways, that is my commentary before we begin, but without further ado, chapter 47. Yahshua and Miriam, with their entourage of guests from their wedding, journeyed from Gan Shalom to holy Mount Hermon. Upon arrival at Mount Hermon, they were greeted by lions of Zion, who guided them to sacred pools. After bathing, they ate juicy fruits to replenish the liquids lost to sweat during their climb up the mountain. That night, the third night of the full moon, beneath the stars of the heavens, it's interesting too that they said the third night of the full moon. Some people don't know that the full moon is technically 3 days of time, not just one. That night, the third night of the full moon, beneath the stars of the heavens, an evening service was held around the fire. The fire burned in Shemaiah. Beside the entourage of the Lord and Lady, gathered also around the fire were the residents and visitors of the lion's den of Mount Hermon. Among those residents of the lion's den were 4 green wizards, students of Perry of special note. Perry had been training these 4 in the way of Zion in white wizardry. You might remember hearing about Zion, the Nasarean martial arts, before, and we will learn about more in the future as well. It's so cool how they're able to easily defeat so many attackers and do it in the least violent way, or the most loving way. They also served as Perry's trusted staff and chief apprentices, these 4 specific green wizards. And this was their last night for a long while on Mount Hermon. 4 in the morning, each would depart on a separate mission unto Yisrael to begin organizing security for the coming of the Lord and Lady to certain towns of Yisrael. That mission was named the Coming of the Lord and Lady to Yisrael. For even while the Lord and Lady ministered unto Yisrael, the lion's den on Mount Hermon was preparing the way for the ministry of the Lord and Lady to the towns of Yisrael that would follow. Remember the difference between Yisrael, meaning being in right standing with God. That was the Nasarean nation, right standing with Elohim, I should say, the name of the Nasarean nation, whereas Yisrael, meaning to struggle against Elohim or to rule as Elohim, and that is any of the nations that are outside of the nation of Israel. Perry the Maggid called these 4 students his 4 foundation stones. Their names are not recorded here by their request. 4, being of the Zoroanistar, they move in the wind and live in the trees, and anonymity is to their advantage. They're part of the hidden arm. Perry said to his 4 foundational stones, "You each leave in the morning on separate missions to prepare for the future visits of the Lord and Lady to various towns of Yisrael. Wherefore, with the Lord and Lady's permission, you may each ask one question of the Lord and Lady." The Lord nodded, and Miriam said, "You 4 leave on a mission on our behalf. We love you, and we are grateful. Ask what you like." One by one, each of the 4 asked the same question of both the Lord and Lady. "How can I better serve you?" Yahshua said to the 4 foundation stones, "Your humility is a fragrance divine." Miriam said, "I can't think of a single improvement, but that you remember to play even when working." Perry was the next to speak to the assembly by the fire on Mount Hermon. He said, "I live mostly on this mountain, though I travel when appropriate. Note that Mount Hermon is really 3 mounts that together form one grand mount that we call Hermon, which means set apart, because it is set apart for spiritual practices. Behold, at the 3 mountaintops together symbolize the first Trinity, that is the self-replicating triangle that is the way of creation. On this sacred mount is the lion's den, that is the regional watch command of the Lions of Zion. Each watch command is on high ground and is called a watchtower, but each is also within and all around, reaching mighty low, even unto the gutters of Yisrael. Now, visiting the watchtower at Mount Hermon are 2 Nasareans of ancient lore. They are, drumroll please, Peter Greenman and Hanukkah called Sheba. Woohoo! I have asked Yahshua and Miriam to introduce them. Yahshua said, "Every Nasarean child has read of the exploits of Peter Greenman. Remember, he would go around and mess with the hunters and divert the animals one way and put false tracks this way. He would go and throw rocks in the pond or lake or whatever to disrupt the fish so that they wouldn't go towards the hooks. Really awesome, cool guy. Likewise, every Nasarean child has read of the exploits of Hanukkah, called Sheba, the Queen of Scroll. The Queen of the Scroll. You might remember her as the daughter of Enoch, and later she becomes an immortal, and then she goes and visits all of the kings, David, Solomon, and prophesies to them of the future. And, well, unfortunately, they don't take her very well, but here they are. Woohoo! But what you do not know of these two, because it is of relatively recent vintage, is the joining of these two fine wines. I speak of the joining by wedding of Green Man and Sheba. Miriam said, "Blessed is this gathering to receive the words of Green Man and Sheba." Green Man, would it please you to share the story of how you came to wed Sheba? A strong man, like an oak tree, came forth. His skin was not green, but his heart was forest green. He said, "Welcome to Mount Hermon. I do not reside in any one forest. I reside in all forests. My physical body goes where it is called. This night I am called to Mount Hermon to greet the wedding party of the Lord Christ and Lady Christ. It would indeed please me to tell the story of my marriage to Sheba. First, I wish to express the unspeakable joy that fills my heart to see Jadeh come as Yahshua, with Janah come as Miriam at his side. The story of the wedding of Green Man and Sheba. Peter said, "You have read the book of Isha and know the origin of my ministry. That was long ago. Since then, I have fought the good fight as general of the army of the Green Lady, specializing in forest protection. But in this fallen group consciousness, the ancient forests are being raped and pillaged. I do what I can. But the proverb is true. The harvest is plentiful, and the harvesters are few. But rather than mourn about my need for more forest helpers, I now share the joyous story of my marriage to Sheba." We can be those forest helpers, so that's really cool excitement. Be not surprised that Peter Green Man has married Hanukkah, the queen of Sheba, the queen of seven. For lo, our wedding made perfect sense. Consider the facts. Both Sheba and Green Man are living immortals in this world. Both of us had outlived more than one spouse and desired not to again taste that cup of sorrow. 100 years ago today, we found great refuge in one another, here, wedded at this very spot on Mount Hermon. No, the fact that Green Man and Sheba married is not the surprising thing. The surprising thing is that it took so long to happen. In truth, I loved her from the very first sight. Yet it was not until the seventh time that I set eyes on Sheba, Queen of Seven, it's a cool number, that I married her on this spot 100 years ago to this day. Here follows an account of the first 7 times we set eyes on one another. But first, I will introduce my wife. Dear Sheba, come forth. A woman of both delicate beauty and great strength came forth. That woman was Hanukkah, adopted daughter of Enoch, called Sheba, the queen of the scroll. She walked up to her husband, Peter Green Man, and hugged him so deeply that they seemed to merge into one another. Perry, noticing that he and Ra'am both had wet eyes, said to Ra'am, "Now it is we old men crying like mothers at a wedding." Sheba said to the gathering, "Green Man and I have made an exception to our usual rule. In all these centuries, I can count on one hand the number of times that Peter or I have attended a Nasarean gathering without veiling our identities. Our ministry depends on anonymity. Not even the occasion of our 100th anniversary would have been cause to drop our cloak of anonymity. But the opportunity to acknowledge the coming of the Lord and Lady to this world is indeed reason enough. I feel honored to be in their presence, and I look forward to visiting with their wedding guests. Blessings be upon you all. Peter Greenman, my beloved, will now tell the story of our 7 meetings. Then I will share a story of long ago, a story of a time before this world was born. The first meeting of Greenman and Sheba. Greenman said, I was in a forest in Kush, leading a group of hunters away from a fresh deer trail. The hunters did not see me. I was making sounds like a buck and leaving a trail that I hoped they would follow. For lo, I am still the prankster you have read about. I came upon a beautiful woman picking herbs beside a pond. I had no time to talk, yet felt called to greet her. For there was something about her that was more beautiful even than her body, which itself was truly beautiful. And so I said, hunters are coming this way, and I must lead them away from you. I have been leading them away from a deer. But before I go, may I ask your name? Sheba replied, not only may you ask, but I will answer. My name is Hanukkah, and I am also called Sheba. I tell those names to few in this world. Hearing the hunters nearby, Peter ran to lead them away from Sheba and the deer. When I returned, Sheba was gone. For lo, she had been called to an errand of mercy in a faraway land. For such was her oath to save the world. The second meeting of Greenman and Sheba. Peter said, Sheba was running fast, faster than any other human has ever run, and with great stamina. She was on the scent of a kidnapper who had snatched a Nasarean child. The kidnapper had a half-day lead, and so Sheba was in a great hurry. But as she ran through a sunny meadow, she saw me picking mushrooms for my supper. She slowed down and said, I am on a mission of mercy and cannot stop. But for 200 years, ever since you asked me my name, I have desired to confirm that I intuit your name correctly. For behold, my intuition tells me that you are the legendary Peter Greenman from the book of Isha. I replied, your intuition is true. But I am no more of a legend than you, Hanukkah, called Sheba. Before she turned to run fast again, she flashed a smile so beautiful that I held it close to my heart until I again set eyes on Sheba. And then I confessed to Sheba what her smile meant to me. But that next meeting was 1,000 years in the future, in a far distant land. For behold, neither Sheba nor Greenman live in one particular land. We are in movement wherever we feel called to merciful acts of intervention. Such is our oath to save this world. We move from continent to continent and know no boundaries. The third meeting. When next I saw Sheba, 1,000 years had passed. To Sheba and I, immortals since the ancient days of this world, 1,000 years is not as long as it would be for you. Even so, imagine missing someone for 1,000 years. When I saw her, she was bathing in a mountain pool. I entered the water and walked to her. She smiled as I approached. I said, Dearest Sheba, it has been 1,000 years since I last saw your lovely smile. And for that 1,000 years, your smile has graced the altar of the shrine of my memories. Sheba, still smiling, was about to reply when she inwardly heard a call for help and vanished in a flash of compassion, for she was bound by her oath to save the world. The fourth meeting of Green Man and Sheba. Hundreds of years passed. The next time I saw Sheba, she was married to a mortal. She was a green wizard, and they were on their way to perform a merciful deed. In respect of that relationship, I said nothing of her still lovely smile. The fifth meeting of Green Man and Sheba. When next we met 100 years into the future, Sheba was again a widow. For such was our lot in life, blessed with eternal life ourselves, but occasionally falling in love with mortals. How sad to stay young while our mates aged. Only very rarely, over the many centuries, did we marry mortals, for our constant movement was not something that most mates could accept. We never had children with mortals because our lifestyle would not permit it. While Sheba was again single, I felt I must speak to her of my feelings. As usual, we met in rushed circumstances. I was running in one direction to save animals from a forest fire. She was running to another part of the world on her own worthy mission. Despite the circumstances, I made sure I told Sheba how I felt. I told her that it was my hope that one day she would be my wife. She smiled a smile that gave me reason to hope. But then she ran to perform her mission of mercy, and I ran to mine. For each of us was bound by our oath to perform such deeds. The sixth meeting of Green Man and Sheba. I, Green Man, was sitting beside a pond. I heard a drowning bug calling for help. I was reaching for the bug when Sheba, on her way to deliver a baby, stopped at the pond. She had heard the bug's call for help. Seeing that this mission was already taken care of, Sheba said, "Peter Greenman, listen. My oath demands that I run now to help an injured woman deliver her baby. And every time we meet, our oaths keep us apart. For your oath demands that you run one way. My oath spins me in another direction. If I were to marry you, would we always be running in opposite directions?" And then she was off, running to deliver the baby. The seventh meeting of Green Man and Sheba. When next I met Sheba, though we were both in a hurry to go do good in opposite directions, I asked straight out, "Will you marry me?" Before she had time to answer, I explained, "When we last spoke, you mentioned our oaths. For some years I have contemplated your words. Dear Sheba, I realize that you are right. We are each bound to an oath, and our oaths take us in different directions. But I also realize this. We can make a new oath, a marriage oath. You are of the feminine spin, and I of the masculine. And we are always spinning in opposite directions, but on worthy missions. I propose marriage. Sometimes you will accompany me on my tasks, and other times I will follow you. Most of the time, let us be together. Let us honor the spins of one another by weaving the spins into an ascending spiral co-dance, a commission of he and she in the form of a double helix. For is that not what Jaja has done? And are we not created in the image and likeness of Jaja crowned in Yah? And are you not the woman who is going to warm my bed tonight and from now on?" Sheba did not answer my proposal with words, not at first. Instead, she pulled me to her and kissed me on the lips, passionately. We were married that day, and she warmed my bed that night, for neither of us wanted to risk getting pulled apart yet again. And since that day 100 years ago, few have been the nights we have ever been apart. The story I have just shared is illustrative of the dance of the masculine and the feminine. Many of you are now new initiates of Shemesh and Shemaiah, and I ask you to reflect on the meaning of the name of your order. Reflect also on the new term Yin and Yang. Some of you have been to, a little bit early, but still. Some of you have been to India. Beyond even India is China. In China was once a Nasarean sect called Tao, which means way or Tao. When I lived there, I was called Lao Tzu, which means old man. I was there for a long duration because a warlord slaughtered nearly all the Nasareans and imprisoned me. After he came to know me, he moved me to a better room and often came to ask my counsel. When he was an old man, he released me with one condition. Though he had burned all copies of the Nasarean scriptures, he asked me to leave him a book without references to my Nasarean religion that would teach its way of life without what he called foreign deities. I called the book The Way of Life. The Chinese term yin and yang, or yin and yang, is used by Taoists to express what Nasarean term shemesh in Shemaiah. Both terms refer to the masculine and feminine polarities and imply a state of balance of opposites in movement, the dance of he and she. Similarly, the Sanskrit words for sun, which is ha, and moon, which is tha, are combined in the term Hatha Yoga, which means sun-moon union and implies balance between the masculine and feminine polarities. Hatha Yoga is the yoga of balance. On the exoteric level, Hatha is balance of the body. On the esoteric level, Hatha is the balance of the masculine and feminine, Shemesh in Shemaiah. The Sanskrit word Tantra, likewise, is the dance of the union of polarities, especially the masculine and feminine. So, Shemesh in Shemaiah is Nasarean Tantra, and it is Nasarean Taoism, and is the Nasarean Hatha. Blessed is he in the embrace of she. Blessed is she in the embrace of he. And blessed are we, the fruit of their seed. Specially blessed am I to have the honor of being married to Sheba. Sheba is Shemaiah to my Shemesh. Now it is her turn to spin in the torchlight while I orbit her in the spiral dance that is our wedding vow made manifest. Now I will turn and spin around her in the alternating waves of the dance of Shemesh and Shemaiah. The next section is called Sheba Tells, the story of Pistis Sophia. If you've studied any Gnosticism, you may have heard of Pistis Sophia before. So this is what the Nasareans have to say about it. Hey, Dave. Dave said, cool graphics. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the sun and moon is really beautiful. I love that. When they incorporate the sun and moon into the actual yin and yang symbol. Sheba tells the story of Pistis Sophia. I bring a bit of ancient Nasarean lore and ask Magdalene to record it for inclusion in the next edition of the Holy Megillah, the Nasarean Bible of the Essene Way. In the early ages of the mother ovum, before the Lord and Lady had manifest multiple bodies, for there had not yet been need, the Lord Christ Jade went on a mission and asked a Lady Christ Jana to wait for him. Jade did not desire to be away from his beloved Jana, but his mission was to a realm that had fallen into darkness, and he wished to spare Jana the rotten stench of such a realm. While Jade was away, a messenger, First Spark, remember Perry, came to Jana with the news of the foul activities of Beelzebub in another sector of the mother ovum. First Spark reported that many were suffering beneath the dark despotism of Beelzebub, who masqueraded as God in the galaxy that he once served as Chief Abram. That story was as follows. In the days before his fall, Beelzebub was a cherubim overseer of a galaxy. It is the duty of an Abram or Sarah of the highest heaven of a galaxy to help the souls of their galaxy graduate to the next highest galaxy. You can say world if you want, whatever you want to say. The idea remains the same, that we essentially climb that golden ladder and then we get the chance to be an Abraham or a Sarah of a world, and then even higher than that in the hierarchy. So really cool. The Mormons talk about this in the form of exaltation. So Beelzebub, having been hailed as God on a visit to a first heaven of a star in his galaxy, decided that he liked being God. And he desired not to graduate the souls of his dominion, but to keep them in his realm and be their God. He then hatched a plan and began to implement it. Yea, for long ages he implemented the stages of his plan. And when the time was right, and he had many compatriots in his fall, he informed all who were in his way that they had graduated this galaxy and would be sent to the next highest galaxy. But lo, it was a trap. This was the first Luciferian rebellion, which is when cherubim rebel against Elohim and Jaja. These rebellions have been few, and this was the first. For though no Olephim cherubim from Madheba have ever fallen, some other races of cherubim have fallen, though very few considering the fathomless time that has unfolded. You can see how graduating up the ladder and becoming, cherubim in these places of, honor and veneration, that can become egotistical, and then all of a sudden you don't wear the crown of humility, and you have fallen from that light. You used to be a light bearer, and now you're not. So this is the story of the part that Jade and Janah played in the redemption of the galaxy that had fallen to Beelzebub. Having heard the report of First Spark about the evil doings in Beelzebub's galaxy, Janah felt that she could not wait for the return of Jade. For behold, First Spark had described entire planets being devoured for their natural resources and then discarded as poisonous desert wastelands. It's literally what happens when the AI comes in, right? Devoured resources and discarded poisoned desert wastelands. First Spark described such horrors that Janah, the queen of compassion, felt she must depart immediately to help in that galaxy. She told First Spark, "Go to the other fallen realm where Jade has gone to another sector of the Mother Ovum. Inform him of my decision and ask him to follow when he can." First Spark departed on his mission to Jade, and Janah departed on her mission to the fallen galaxy of Beelzebub. When First Spark had first witnessed the atrocities of Beelzebub, he had tried to confront Beelzebub in person, but found it impossible. For Beelzebub resided in a tower that was surrounded by many technological barriers on a favored home planet, as well as natural barriers that prevented Beelzebub from being able to perceive or communicate with First Spark. Beelzebub had introduced enslaved light and artificial brains in many worlds in his galaxy. By making beings believe that they were not naturally immortal, Beelzebub was able to trap souls within his galaxy. It's exactly what they're trying to do now. They said that this is the first case of the first Luciferian rebellion, and this is exactly the same thing that they are doing now. So this war between natural and artificial consciousness is the same war that always takes place in this world, this realm of 666. By making beings believe that they were not naturally immortal, Beelzebub was able to trap souls within his galaxy. But even so, Beelzebub and his minions eventually became so dense as a result of their dark deeds that he could only operate in vibrational fields as high as a youthful first heaven, and then only at the border, unless given assistance by residents within that buffer. Same thing with the story of Adam and Eve, right? When First Spark had gone looking for Beelzebub's current home planet, the spiritual atmosphere around that planet was so dense that First Spark, of a much faster and higher quality vibration frequency than Beelzebub, could not be seen or heard by Beelzebub, only vaguely sensed as a powerful presence. And the other residents of this planet did not even sense the presence of Beelzebub, for Beelzebub kept their life vibrations beneath his own, that none in his galaxy could successfully challenge him for rulership. Knowing that she would not go along with him, that Beelzebub had ages before locked up in the dungeon of his own. Knowing that she would not go along with him, Beelzebub had ages before locked in the dungeon of his dark tower the rightful overseeing Sarah of his galaxy, along with many other luminaries that would not join him in his rebellion. He imprisoned them by bombarding them with energy conjured by dark wizardry. Because they had not suspected that such evil would be perpetrated against them, these luminaries were taken by surprise without having created a counterspell. When bombarded by such force of energy as Beelzebub's technology made possible, life forms were so rattled and shaken as to be easily imprisoned. First Spark comprehended the activities taking place on this planet, though the planet did not comprehend First Spark. That is when First Spark had come to report to Jannah about the fallen galaxy of Beelzebub. Now that Jannah had sent First Spark with her message to far-off Jade, she headed to the home world of Beelzebub. See how it says home world here, and earlier it says planet. So, for her compassion was so great that she called to reach out. She felt a call to reach out immediately in love and compassion to the beings of that fallen planet and galaxy of Beelzebub. However, in the many rotations of the cycles and seasons since the visit of First Spark to this far-off galaxy, Beelzebub had taken measure to capture First Spark, so he or another great being try and interfere. He had taken measure to capture First Spark should he or another great being try and interfere with the politics of his galaxy. For Beelzebub had sensed First Spark's presence and realized his own vulnerability should an archangel of Madheba or perhaps another great being come to visit his realm. And so he had taken measures to capture any such great being that might come. Beelzebub had placed gatekeepers loyal to him at key doorways into his galaxy, and especially the region of his home planet, in its star system and neighboring systems. Wherefore he knew when Jannah had entered the far reaches of his galaxy, and he had time to launch the following plan. Beelzebub knew that no natural force could kill a living being, especially a powerful great being. But he had created technology that enabled him to so strongly bombard the vibrational field of a great being as to stun them. If the bombardment is sustained, the great being would remain stunned and disabled, too disoriented to do more than dream strange dreams. Beelzebub knew not that this great being was Jannah, only that some great being of the feminine spin had entered his galaxy, and he named that feminine spin, or presence, Sophia. For the presence reminded him of the feminine presence of the rightful Sarah that had been imprisoned with the first use of his stun technology long before the coming of Jannah. Beelzebub secretly feared the feminine wisdom, and he taught his people to fear Sophia even before she came to his home planet. And he put forth a call to the demonic world for evil beings to come serve as overseers of each cell of his personal body. With that act, Beelzebub took on the form of a black dragon, and each of the overseers of the cell of his personal body was a black dragon. And Beelzebub seeded this life form amongst the planets under his influence, and he altered the climate on those worlds to accommodate the monstrous life forms that he seeded. In other worlds, he seeded cyborgism, especially where his poisons had rendered organic life impossible. Seems like what they're doing in our world right now, right? And in some worlds, including his home planet, he mixed the two, cyborgism and monstrous life forms. Long before Jannah approached the home planet of Beelzebub, she had began veiling her glory, taking bodies that would permit her to be seen and heard in the worlds she entered. She knew why First Spark had not been seen or heard in these denser realms. And in the worlds where she walked, as she approached the home planet of Beelzebub, she was called Pistis Sophia, and religions were founded on her teachings wherever she passed. For she was hailed as the oracle of divine feminine wisdom. But by the time that she got to the atmosphere of the home planet of Beelzebub, Jannah had changed her body so many times, each time diminishing her glory even further, that she entered the atmosphere in a weakened condition. Sounds like some other goddesses going to the underworld story, right? And then, as Jannah entered the doorway to take incarnation on Beelzebub's planet, he struck with all his might. He struck Jannah as she entered his world. With the full might of his capacity for technological bombardment of a great being, Beelzebub and his multitude of dark wizards stunned and captured Jannah. Exulting that he had captured Pistis Sophia, Beelzebub bombarded her for a great duration, and then, noting her amnesia, he then put her in the body of a harem girl and made her his slave. This was the depth of the amnesia of Jannah, and she did not regain her memory until she was kissed by Jade when he rescued her. And the story of the rescue of Jannah by Jade now follows. Remember that Jannah had sent First Spark with a message to Jade. Eventually, First Spark caught up with Jade and delivered the message. Then Jade and First Spark, both concerned about Jannah, began the long journey to the sector of the mother ovum where resided Beelzebub. Jade had a plan. Jade correctly predicted that Jannah would enter the galaxy of Beelzebub in compassion, diminishing her glory to be seen by the eyes of the low beings in the worlds she walked as Pistis Sophia. He knew how she would be captured by bombardment in her weakened condition. He knew that he must avoid the same fate if he was to set free his sweetheart. Jade told First Spark, "We will enter this world in a flash of spiritual lightning that comprehends and transcends the thoughts and plots of Beelzebub. We will disable Beelzebub by reflecting his portion of light back into his eyes, but magnified 1,000-fold, so that he sees his own evil deeds and repents or flees. We will alter the vibration of this planet by touching it with our own higher vibration, thereby causing a multitude of tiny ascending spirals to vibrate forth from potential into actuality, and also to influence the shifting of many descending spirals of consciousness into ascending vibration patterns. The lightning of our comprehension of Beelzebub will disable his technological wizardry like a solar flare from the highest heavens. The solar flare of our insight will disrupt Beelzebub's enslaved light and will cast open the doors to the prisons and the dungeons beneath his tower. All of his prisoners will be freed, including Jannah." Then Jade and First Spark chanted their enchantment and manifested themselves as the light of comprehension that entered the atmosphere of Beelzebub's home planet as a solar flare and disabled his dark technology. Jade and First Spark set the captives free, and Beelzebub fled into the darkness of the shadow realms. For Beelzebub had long prepared back doors into many worlds in case of the need to escape the scene of his crimes. And he had literally seated himself in many worlds and in many forms. Jahde searched 3 years after the fall of Beelzebub before he found Jannah. When Jahde found her, she was wandering free in a forest, her soul still in the body of the woman who had once been enslaved as a harem girl, but had escaped from Beelzebub when his technology was knocked out by the Lord's solar flare. Since her escape, Jannah, still unaware of her identity as Jannah, led the naturals that resisted the fallen regime of Beelzebub after the collapse of his technology. Jahde came and worked by her side, and she fell in love with him. Then Jahde kissed her, and Pistis Sophia knew that she was Jannah. Her amnesia was gone once Jahde kissed her, and from that time on, Jahde has been known to kiss Jannah on the lips, even in public, as a token of remembrance that celebrates their joyous reunion. Nasareans can celebrate this kiss of remembrance of Jahde and Jannah as a special theme of celebration during the month of love. Behold, from the time of the kiss of remembrance, Jahde and Jannah began to manifest multiple bodies in which to reach out in mercy to fallen worlds. That way, they could go on missions as a pair. And how do I know this? Behold, I, Hanukkah, called Sheba, was long ago the Sarah that Beelzebub first imprisoned in preparation for his rebellion, knowing that I would not cooperate with his plan. Jahde rescued me along with Jannah. I am honored to share this ancient lore with this worthy assembly. Miriam was the next speaker. She said, "Who could top that story?" Sheba laughed and said, "You could." Miriam said, "Perhaps, but only perhaps." Everyone laughed. Miriam said, "I bring wedding anniversary gifts. I have a gift first for Sheba, then for a gift for Green Man." To Sheba, the gift of the Lord and Lady is that she and Green Man will be blessed with a child. When, for so many centuries, Sheba affirmed herself childless, thereby she became infertile. For such is how even the great ones can get stung by our own previous affirmations. Did you hear that? It's really interesting. When for so many centuries Sheba affirmed herself childless, thereby she became infertile because she declared it. For such is how even the great ones can get stung by our own previous affirmations. The Lord and Lady, as wizard and wizardess, conjure healing here and now. You are fertile, Sheba, now, if you believe. Sheba said, "I believe," and she was fertile, for she later gave birth to a child. That child became an apprentice to Gwenjamin and serves the Zeroa Nistar as a unicorn rider. Miriam said, "My gift to Peter Greenman is my promise that there will arise nature defenders in every land. For I know how Peter's heart yearns for more helpers to defend nature from the spoilers. And in the last days, the naturals will rally to save the last forests. Before the last days, an Appleseed prophet will wander the land of the eagle in amnesia to prepare the way for the naturals. For lo, the Appleseed prophet, a son of revolution, was once a great Nasarean, but had forgotten. And yet the sleeper will awaken. Here is my prophecy of the great one, the great helper of Green Man to come." The Appleseed prophecy. Behold, in the last days a war will be fought. Not a new war, but an ancient war. This is the war between the naturals who reject the body of the beast and the artificials who build and are that body. Lo, the entire world will be the battlefield. Even so, the heart of the battle will be waged in the land of the eagle. Singers will call this land New Babylon. For like old Babylon, this land will overflow with material wealth, but will become spiritually poor. For behold, the powers behind the false powers will build their castles in this land. And beneath mighty mountains, they will build the unknown city from which they will rule. Yea, it is there, beneath mountains in New Babylon, that the unnatural brain, which is the master brain of countless unnatural brains, will be built. And this master brain of the unnaturals will be linked to the unnatural brains at the workplace. And finally, in the last days, the master brain will be wedded to the natural brains of those that link to the body of the beast. Yea, the war between the naturals and artificials has been and will be waged in countless worlds. For it is the war between true eternal life and false eternal life, and the ways thereof. Know this. Even as Isha has chosen a general to lead her army of nature lovers in the old world, so will a new general be chosen to lead the forest dwellers of the new world. Behold, in the manner that Peter proved himself before Isha met him, saving animals on his own, even before meeting a Nasarean, thus it will be with his helper in the land of the eagle. Behold, I was shown a vision of things to come. The vision was from Isha. I saw the natural world poisoned and pillaged, even to the brink of disaster. And the leader in the poisoning will for a time be New Babylon, the land of the eagle. But I also saw that in the first days of New Babylon, just after its establishment as a nation, a son of the natural world stood tall. Yea, a son of the revolution, the Appleseed prophet, is called to fight a different war than his revolutionary father. For his father fought with weapons that kill, but the son fights with weapons that heal. For the apple tree is his symbol, and apple seed is his weapon. And he will walk the new world with apple seed in hand. And he will preach truth according to his understanding. And upon his death as man, Isha will greet him. And in her hand will be the Holy Megillah, her first gift to the Appleseed prophet, that his understanding may be magnified. The second gift shall be immortal life as the general of her army in the new world. Yea, in the forest of New Babylon, an immortal man will walk. He is Isha's gift to the land of the eagle before the last days. His weapon is the gift to inspire others to fight the good fight of the army of the Green Lady. This army consists of naturals, those who refuse the body of the beast and defend the Mother Earth from the hands of the spoiler. After speaking her prophecy to Peter Greenman, Miriam said to Magdalene, who was writing down the words of the prophecy to be included in the Holy Godspell, Nasarean children can be taught to plant apple trees in preparation for the coming of the Appleseed prophet. Yea, give each child a pouch of apple seeds, whatever kind grow in their land, whether it be the yellow quince or the red crabapple or some other variety. Teach children that each seed we plant is a celebration of life. And let all the children know that this prophecy is the gift of the Magdalene to Peter Greenman in appreciation for his long work as the cornerstone of the green army of Israel in this world. For behold, this is a prophecy that help will be sent to Peter. Yea, in every nation, helpers will arise to save Mother Earth from the hands of the spoilers. And in the last days, when chances for victory look slim, young people will swell the ranks of the green lions. Wherefore, Peter Greenman, do not despair that the harvest is great and the workers few. Help will come when you most need it. Nagoha and Perry reported that the road to Carmel was being watched. but not the road to Syria. Yahshua said to his companions, a change in plan. We had planned to next visit Mount Carmel. Instead, thanks to the warning of our winged scouts, we will first visit the Nasarean congregation in Syria, then go to Mount Carmel. After Carmel, we and our companions will sail an olivine ship to Alexandria, then visit Nasareans in dispersion. And then it will be time to gather John's disciples and launch our ministry to Israel. But before we leave Mount Hermon for Syria, Miriam and I will, tomorrow, gather here with the initiated lions and speak on Zion. Woohoo! That is the end of chapter 47. I got very teary-eyed there at the end, and they talk about Peter not despairing because, as they express, Peter is, sad at the situation, and his heart is just broken at the forests being destroyed, the animals being destroyed, and yes, this is such a great gift. In the last days, when chances for victory look slim, young people will swell the ranks of the green lions. Wherefore, Peter, green man, do not despair that the harvest is great and the workers few. Help will come when you most need it. Ooh-wee. That is some good stuff. Tomorrow, probably, I'm just looking ahead a little bit, I will have the next chapter ready to go, and we will read the discourse of the Lord and Lady to the lions of Zion and learn a little bit more about that. What a great couple of stories in there, especially about Peter and Sheba too, and them being immortals and then finally falling in love and getting to be married, all that great stuff. I don't really care to deal with any trolls today. That was a great story, and let's just end on a very high positive note. Anybody who is a spiritual seeker and picks up this beloved book is going to find that it contains the highest spiritual teachings that are accessible to mankind, that are known to mankind. These stories, literally, even from the very beginning, you can feel the spirit in them, and it just... the story of creation especially, just so beautiful, and having discernment is important, and the Holy Spirit will reveal the truth of this to those who seek sincerely. So, Kyle said, what if everyone grew apple trees? That would be awesome. It'd be really cool because, every apple has at least 5 seeds with it, and can therefore plant all of those trees galore. How cool it would be if Mount Shasta, instead of the trees that are there for plantation purposes, logging and stuff, if we had forests of apple trees and other vineyard, all the different, not just apple trees, but companion planting with it, so that it doesn't, all this monocrop culture that we have is not good for the earth. So obviously things need to be supplemented and in flow with each other, but I definitely believe that it is possible. And yeah, just planting fruit trees all over the place and different berry bushes and things will easily help food be accessible for everyone. I had a cool story or thing happen to me this morning. Before I jump off, just talking about ways that we can kind of be helpful, I pulled out onto the road and was driving down and saw this person that was kind of like scrunched up at the bottom of a tree and just like laying there. And so I pulled onto the side of the road and started like backing up really slowly. And there was another truck that was a little bit ahead of me and pulled back, and they kind of beat me to her, but we got there a little bit at the same time. And the truck had 2 guys in it, and the lady kind of like started to get up as they started talking to her. And so I got out of my vehicle and went over and was like, hey, are you okay? And then she's like, yeah, I'm just needing, to get into town. And I live like at least 4 miles out of town. And so she was like, and she said that she was coming from even further. She said something about like 12 or 14 mile walk to get into town. So I'm like, oh, let me get you inside. I turned on, the car warmer seat and cranked up the heat, and ended up getting to bring her not only into town what she was asking for, but she wanted to come to Mount Shasta. So I got to chat with her a little bit on the way, and it was just a really cool. Usually I don't pull over and give people rides or anything like that. But it was cool that I did feel called, and I was able to help her get to Mount Shasta. I gave her my number, and said, I'm not always available, but if I am, feel free to reach out. And she mentioned that her son was kind of in the Shasta Vista areas, which you might remember from the lava fire, but that he was like excited about learning gardening and what vegetables he could grow, and to teach. She specifically said that he wants to teach other people how to do that. And I was like, that's so cool, because I just started the Shasta Gardening Club, and we are going to be bringing in different teachers, preferably people that are passionate about it and want to kind of do it for free. But starting to host classes that will help us learn how to garden, different ways to even taking care of seeds in the winter, learning how to companion plant, learning about compost, and all of these different factors. I'm really excited to be working with another lady at a regenerative arts camp, to get stuff like that going too. So really cool. But I just really am grateful that I got to have that experience and give this older lady a ride to her destination. Thinking of a friend and I were talking the other day and said something. We were talking about like road rage kind of, and having patience with other people, and like saying, oh, well, this old person cut me off. Well, that's someone's mother. So would you want someone, if your mom made a mistake, to get mad and send curse energy and be very angry, or all of this, negativity at her for making a mistake? Or would you want them to have compassion and cut her some slack? And so kind of seeing other people, and just trying to be more empathetic in these different ways. So I see this like lady, and she's getting in my car. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't, if this was my grandma, I would not want her to be walking. I would offer her to drive her wherever she needed to go for that day and bring her back, like no problem, no questions asked. Like I'd be happy to do that. And so that was kind of the role that I was taking on in that position, being able to be like, if this was my grandma, my mom, or anything, this is someone's loved one, and she shouldn't be like this. And even like being that she's my sister, right? All of us are brothers and sisters, and we're, connected. And so whatever way you need to kind of latch onto to start making these connections to help you be nicer to people and more kind and loving, I definitely encourage that. So anyways, I'm going to jump off of here, but tomorrow we will talk about Zion. Super excited. Another one of the clubs that I am going to be getting started with, going to be starting. I need to find some people that are going to like essentially teach it, is some sort of Zion martial arts, like self-defense type training, incorporating like bow staff and other things that are all based on the Nasarean principles of nonviolence and Zion. So super excited for all of the new projects. I hope that you have a wonderful day. May God and the Goddess bless you.